What's going on? My name is Amy. Welcome back to the channel. And in this video, I'm going to give you a perspective of how I handle losses in trading and how it's changed for me dramatically from beginning with day trading back in November 2024, just starting to enter now my 19th month of trading. I'm still here, still, putting it down and have become profitable now over the last 8 months. And I really wanted to share this because it's something that I feel like is not talked about in the community enough. There's some people that gloss over it, some people that, give a little insight about trading losses and, what to do, how to handle it. But I feel like a lot of people just accept losses at face value and say, oh, it's part of the game and everybody takes losses. And it's this kind of advice that doesn't help you. It doesn't give you any like motivation or inspiration or keep going. Like it's just sort of this like, well, you just gotta toughen up and take it and suck it up. Be a man, be a woman, whatever. And I feel like my own experience has been very much a mental, psychology based, mindset based journey because I knew once I got a technical strategy down and working, that pretty much from there on out, 90 or let's say like 85% of the time, I'd be spending focused on emotions, psychology, mindset, how do you handle things? How do you bounce back? And what's interesting is every time, you go through these like learning lessons, aka losses, it's you should feel like you yourself are in an uptrend. Okay, so like I study ICC and we talk about uptrends and downtrends in that methodology. And it's like a really great parallel for your life. Like you should see that, there's a bug here. You should see that you are making higher highs and your lows are higher. You should be seeing like, okay, I recover, I'm coming back up. I didn't do the dumb stuff I used to do and bring my account way down here. You should be seeing this pattern of higher lows in your account. And I don't just mean like looking at the numbers, like if you track your account performance looking at numbers. I mean like literally you should feel emotionally and mentally that you have shifted. So, one of the things I do first and foremost, like just to protect my own sanity, is that I immediately, like, I'm walking away. I'm shutting down everything. I'm turning off every single alert that I previously had set. I am silencing everything so that I don't get distracted after taking a loss. Like the position is flat, right? First of all, most of the time I wouldn't even have the capital if I'm trading full size anyway, because I got to wait for funds to settle for the next day because I don't have a margin account. But that being, aside from things, I don't like to know that perhaps I got out and it was a mistake, like an impulse move, or perhaps I got out and then price immediately turned around, or I don't want to know those things right after I got out of a trade. Because what ends up happening, you feel bad, right? You're like, oh man, if I had just held and waited for that bounce, or maybe you're selling and you saw price go back up and you got panicked and you're like, I should have, I don't want to be shoulda, woulda, coulda at all. I just shut it down, close the app, turn off all notifications, walk away from the screens. And I do that for the rest of the day. Like this probably will take some serious discipline for people, but make sure when you shut things down, you shut them down. You're not like 20 minutes later coming back to the charts like, oh, I wonder where price is at now. Like don't do that to yourself. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Even if in hindsight you're like, realize you could have held a trade or something like that, or you could have moved your stop somewhere else. It does not help you during the time when your emotions are running. And I think it's just been really beneficial for me to utilize that exact plan and walk away. Because what I've then noticed is, your initially your thoughts are like, "Oh, what did I do wrong? What happened? Yada yada." Like how did I, did something go wrong here in the market? Was this on me? Did I make a mistake? Whatever it might be. There's a lot of thoughts running around. And what I've tended to do is I'll like go for a walk or go to the gym and, get that excess like emotional energy out of your system because it's physical, right? At that point, it's physical. And it's one of the things I feel like you have absolute control over. You don't have control over what the market does. You can have the perfect setup, the perfect trade, the perfect entry, and something goes wrong, according to plan. That can just happen. You don't have control over that. You don't have control over where price is going to go or, break structure when you thought it was going one way. You don't have control over those things. You do have control over your emotions and your thinking and your physicality about it. So by that, I mean, you can take actions to reduce the stuff that's actually causing negative feeling, negative like energy in your body. So that's why I say, I go for a walk, I go to the gym, I get that stuff like flushed out of my system immediately. I walk away, I don't look at anything, I put the phone on, do not disturb or whatever it might be to turn off all the alerts. I don't want to know. And after I kind of feel like my system is like resetting, I will then kind of make sure that the story I tell myself is always a story of my progression and my growth as a trader. It's always going to be that I, am learning. I am, still new to this game. I think anybody that's been trading for under 5 years, you're like technically still new. Like, let's be real here. You have to go and put in the time and the hours and the trades and get the experience and get the complete obsession you need about trading for a period of years because you have to kind of compare this to becoming like a doctor, right? Like a lawyer. It's not a skill that people are just gonna, oh, I figured it out in 6 months. I'm amazing, And if they did, it's chances are it's a lucky streak. They probably don't have the foundation built for long term, being a trader. So that being said, I tell myself the story of, okay, Amy, you're doing it, you're putting it down, you're still here, perhaps when I go back later and kind of analyze the trade, perhaps I took an action that was an error in judgment. Perhaps I made a mistake. I'll allow that kind of like just a thought to my head, but I'll say, I'm every day I'm learning. Every day, I'm still here. I'm still showing up. I'm still putting in the time. I'm still learning. And every trade is that exactly is a learning lesson. It's not going to always be sunshine and roses so that you like, oh, I'm always winning. But at the same time, you don't have to beat yourself up over a loss. You don't have to like criticize yourself and tear yourself down and say, oh, I'm so stupid. I'm so dumb. Why did I take this trade? What was I thinking? None of that talk and none of that story helps you. So don't say it to yourself. We beat ourselves up more than anybody else ever will, is kind of my thoughts about this. And I've really learned, I think it took me many months to kind of even come to an awareness and a realization that I was even doing that to myself so drastically, like, beating myself up, tearing myself down, and to kind of realize like, 6, 7, 8 months in, wait a minute, is this helping me? No, because I know from my own experience, like, when you had a job and you were, just learning how to get in the workforce and stuff. You remember, I'm sure everybody's had this, where you had one boss who would tear you down and kind of like think that that was motivating for people to tear them down and to make them feel bad. Like, I got to motivate my people by making them feel bad and tearing them down and criticizing them. Like, that's like a negative reinforcement, right? Then you have a boss sometimes who come along and they're uplifting. They point out like, oh, okay, you could have did a little better here, but good job here. You're learning, keep going. For me, I've always noticed that throughout my life, positive reinforcement worked way better than negative. And I can tell you for a fact, even as I became an entrepreneur years later, I tried both tactics on myself, trying to manage myself as a manager. And I did the whole like, suck it up, get to work. You need to work harder. What are you doing? And why do you keep me? It actually just every time would make me perform worse numbers, worse sales, whatever it might be. So I realized that I respond better to positive reinforcement. And I think the majority of people mostly do. I'm not being delusional. Like I see that I need to work on some things, but I think when you are focused on a positive reinforcement model in the way that you talk to yourself, you're going to do better and you're going to recover from losses much quicker. Like I remember it used to upset me, to lose, not just to lose a trade, but to lose certain amounts of money or a certain dollar figure. And I would feel the negativity of that. I would literally felt like something had just kind of jabbed me in the heart, and I was like, man, it would be nice to just accept that trading is ups and downs. There will be wins, there will be losses. And as long as you're on the track to keep going, I was like, there's got to be some way to feel differently about it. Because I knew if I felt different, I could perform better and I could bounce back and I could always take more lessons from that losing trade versus having that blinded vision of pain. When you're in pain, you can't see things clearly, right? It's like a veil is over you. Um, what's up, Theater Garrett? Trading, not only have you deal with losses, you also deal with loneliness. Yes, loneliness is 100% correct. And let's all be real here. Like, ain't nobody holding your hand through these losses, right? I don't care if you have a spouse, a partner, a friend, a trading buddy. They're not going to be like, oh, you lost $100. Well, let me give you 100. Here, feel better, right? Ain't nobody coming to like save your butt and make you feel better that you just lost money. They might be supportive and say, hey, keep going, you're doing okay, whatever. But you're right. Like it is a lonely game because you and only you are dealing with what's going on up here and maybe even down here. Like what I noticed was like, I literally felt like something in my chest. I felt like sometimes in the gut was the initial like, oh crap, this is turning into a loss. Then, when I actually close it, it was like the heart was like a part of that, and I was like, man, what's up with that? So what I started to do when I realized, no, I got some control here. I don't have to have emotions running wild. I could actually be calm about this and prepare myself. I learned a lot from my own mentor with trading and how he would handle losses that were massively bigger than I had ever seen. And I was like, man, he's got this ability to just kind of turn it around on a dime, not go back into the market same day or anything, but quite possibly the next day, take what he learned from that loss and completely be okay with shifting the bias and taking a winning trade the next day. So I was like, why can't I do that? So I kind of took upon it myself by watching what my mentor was doing and realized that, if he can do it, so can I. I don't have to live with this emotions and these wild feelings and the swings and the, beating myself up and all this sort of stuff. Because at the end of the day, again, this doesn't help you. This only hurts your trading. Because I think back to some days where I felt like I had to take the rest of the week off. Because, I just was like mentally, I'm fried. I took, like a loss and I can't even think straight the next day to come back to the market. So now it's like, I got into a point where because of the stories I tell myself, because of the massive difference in vision I have for myself. Like it used to be just, dear God, can I like win a couple trades, And then it became, okay, I want to be profitable. Okay, I want to actually make some decent money. Okay. Also, I want to be consistent, And as I was kind of just seeing the vision in my head, I'm like, man, I'm thinking so small in terms of like where I'm at in my trading career that it's hindering me. I should be thinking in terms of years, if not even decades of doing this, because think about it. When you take a loss and in that moment, that money, like it means something to you, that loss meant something to you, that blow to your self-esteem, your ego. that means something to you in that moment. But when you think about it in the context of, I could be in this trading game for years, right? You are not even going to remember that one single trade, right? You are, it's going to be like completely gone from your mind unless, you blew your whole account. Maybe then you would remember. But most cases, if you managed your risk, you got out, you abided by your rules or whatever, even if you didn't, you still are going to have, experience, years of experience behind you after that, that like will erase almost that memory. So why not just forget about it now? Why not like just think about, well, this is one trade out of the many, many trades I will take in the next, like kind of on my mind lately is just, hey, let's get to 2 years. Like just to be like, man, I've been doing this for 2 years. I'm still here. I'm making money and making profits. Let's just get to 2 years. That's for me now. That's only like 5 months away. So that's one of my timelines that I kind of think, oh man, of course I'm going to take a bunch of trades in the next 5 months. This is nothing. This is a blip. And then when you start to think in a couple of years, okay, wow, what about when I'm at 5 years as a trader? I'm going to look back and I'm going to laugh. That I took this too seriously. I'm going to look back and I'm going to laugh. So why not laugh now? Why not just be like more lighthearted about it and say, hey, this was a rookie mistake. I did something that I haven't done in a while and I goofed up and silly me, right? But just take it upon yourself to have a different attitude about it and a different vision and a timeline. Because at that point, it takes something, and I don't know if you guys have ever watched any or listened to any Tony Robbins. He talks about neuro linguistic programming, NLP. And he talks about this specific technique, and I think it was in Awaken the Giant Within, his book. He talks about a technique where in your mind, when something like this happens and it creates this like emotional response, in your mind, that picture is like huge, right? This loss is like a huge image in your mind. It's taking over the entire, concept of your thinking. If you're able to actually squeeze that down mentally, and say, what if I could just make this image smaller? Like pretend your loss is a circle. Make the circle smaller and smaller and smaller. And at that point, you realize you can actually control what you're thinking about. And you minimize that. And the technique is kind of, it's kind of weird. It's kind of out there, but I actually found it to be very helpful, very beneficial for certain things I went through that people might have considered traumas. I was like, okay, let me just, do this little technique. So I've done that with trading and just kind of minimize things. Hey, Smasher, I agree. It's the overimportance of individual trades. Yes, overimportance. That's such a good word. And I think back to some of the Mark Douglas stuff that I listened to. And he always talked about like this 20 trades experiment type deal, where you kind of have to look at your last 20 trades to gauge how your performance actually is. Not your last one trade, right? Not your last 2 trades, 3 trades, And for me, because I do swing trading now, it's like I actually have a much smaller number to look at because I don't take that many trades, but I think in terms of months. And if I have a month where I feel a little off, I'm like, yeah, but it's just 1 month, 1 month out of freaking in 19 now. So who cares, right? Oh, thank you. Sending love back to you, Smasher. Yeah, and I mean, if you're here, it's like, okay, the real ones know. The real ones are like, help me, like I need to handle losses better. I knew this was something I had to work on early on because I was like, man, if you're trying to learn this and you're kind of a beginner, you're under a year in this is probably the most important skill you need to master. And I say this even over a strategy, because in the beginning, you're not going to have a working strategy like out the gate. So your ability to handle losses is going to set you up so that when the right strategy for you comes along and you really are like, okay, this is me, this is working, I like this strategy, then you already have the mindset of being a winning trader. Regardless if you're profitable or not at that point and you got a strategy that's working, that's actually beside the point. I don't think it's ever really talked about enough because everybody wants to jump right to, let me find a winning strategy. This is the key, to starting off as a beginner trader. Not necessarily, because in the beginning, you don't know what you like to trade like. You probably are going to try some different things and be like, okay, like this is working, this is working. Maybe this isn't my thing. When I jumped around a little bit in the beginning, I was kind of testing the waters with a little bit of swing trading, then some day trading, then some scalping. And then I was like, I need to find something that's a little more calm and relaxed. So I'm looking at higher time frames, switching up my strategy. And by that time, I found this other strategy. I'd been in the game for 9 to 10 months, and I had started to really shift my thinking about losses. It's kind of frustrating and annoying when you are just constantly losing because you just don't you just don't have something working for you. But if you're able to handle that and say, you know what, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep at it until I find what's really gonna work for me. Then your mindset can handle things that go against you. And then when things come along and you're like, yeah, this is how I want to trade, and then you're trying to become consistent from that, then it's like, okay, I already know how to handle a loss. And it's a matter of like just continuing with that risk management. I think for me, having had, the ups and the downs with the new strategy, and yet still being able to say, I am 6 out of the last 8 months profit, like that taught me that, hey, Amy, you did good. Obviously there's always areas to improve, but you didn't like falter. You didn't like fall off the map. You didn't do anything stupid and crazy. And you're still here and you're proving consistency. Like that's definitely the stage I feel right now is consistency through a choppy, somewhat kind of market. There was other months where it felt like a little more flow. Obviously, y'all know the Iran war really changed things. And now it's sort of like, I mean, depending on what you're trading, it sort of feels like sometimes there's a trend and you're like, oh, I'm getting in the trend. And then it's like, no, just kidding. That wasn't a real trend. This is a game of emotion control more than anything else. Yeah. I find building systems to prevent me from my own degenerate actions is the most effective. Yeah. I mean, it's self-awareness. You got to know what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. And like I said in the beginning, in case y'all missed it, one of the very first things I do to handle a loss is to shut everything down. Shut the laptop, shut the desktop, shut the phone, like everything goes to like do not disturb, turn off all notifications. Like I don't want to know. I don't want to know that, either I was right to get out or I was wrong to get out. Either way, I made the decision and that's done. So I don't want to beat myself up any after the fact, or even like to know that I was right. Like I think there's kind of an incessant need for us as traders to be like, okay, I got out of this trade, I hit my area, like this was my stop, I'm out. And then to like kind of be like, well, let me go back to the charts and let me check and just make sure I was right. Because I really want to be right. Get rid of that. Get rid of that need to be right, because yes, it will help you as a trader to obviously improve your technical analysis and getting in and out at the right time. But it's not helping your trading to try to prove yourself every time. Like, I'm right. Because do you want to always be right or do you want to make money? I don't know about you. I want to make money, and it's another journey for that. Like that whole thing is, let me make sure that I'm working on actually making money versus just trying to prove myself right all the time. I've removed my credit card from the platform, so there are barriers to me buying challenges easily. Okay, yeah. So prop firm, man, I know that's a real problem for people. It's almost like I live in Las Vegas, and obviously people have gambling addictions here, whether they live here or they're passing through, and I see that similar behavior with prop firms that people are like, oh, it's just $20, it's just $40, just $60, whatever. I'll just buy another account without addressing the real issue of why they took a loss or why they lost their account, So I applaud you for being disciplined like that, because some people they don't have enough self-awareness to be disciplined and to do like what I do, where you just like straight up walk away. Because I know there's probably a lot of day traders out there, maybe watching, you're one of them, that you take multiple trades in a day and you take a loss and you keep sitting there and you keep trading. And I can tell you this because I did the same for a little while. Where I was taking multiple trades in a day. I don't think it helps to sit there and keep trying to win that money back. It's really really hard to detach yourself from something that happened seconds or minutes ago and to try to have a completely fresh perspective on the market again and to even see things clearly on a chart. Because you got to figure, okay, I took a loss. And unless you are like really disciplined and you've been in this game for a long time and you really gotten hold of your psychology and emotion, most people are still going to be feeling emotion, right? Most people are still going to be like, dang, I took that stupid loss. All right, let me go back and look at, all right, what else can I trade? Or what else, maybe I should short it now because I went long and maybe I should short it. Like in my experience, I think that's probably one of the worst things you can do is to immediately try to shift your bias. Immediately be like, oh, I was wrong, going long because I got stopped out and went against me. So I'm going to short it. Well, have y'all ever looked at a chart and seen wicks? Okay, these are actually like liquidity hunts, they call them, where they're like, oh, let's find all the people that bought at the top. Let's flush all their stops, right? Then let's find all the people that are trying to short it now the price is down here, and let's flush all their stops out and wick the price back. Like, come on. The trend is not going to instantly change that quickly. Of course, you could have read it wrong. Of course, you could have been like, oh, I'm actually, misreading the chart. It definitely is going the other way. But it's not a good idea to try to just immediately jump back in and say, well, I was wrong about this. I'm going to be right now. It's not always going to go your way. And you end up getting what they call chopped. Like I look at charts sometimes and I'm like, this is a choppy chart. Like I ain't getting in that. I'm not getting cut up. I'm not getting shredded to ribbons. I used to trade Tesla like early on in my beginning day trading days. And that stock, it felt like if you're looking at 1 minute, 5 minute time frames, it was just a hot mess of noise. And you could go up and down, chasing it all day long and never seem to catch the stupid thing, right? So, anyways, besides telling yourself a different story, and I said zoom out, look at your journey and look at things in a much much broader perspective. Like even if you've been in this game for more than 5 years, think about what the next 5 years could be. How you could turn things around by changing how you react to a loss. Because if you can make that where you kind of like, whether you win or lose, like I heard a trader say this and I thought it was very wise. He was a young guy too. And he was like, I'm feeling internally the same whether I take a win or I take a loss. I mean, that's really like, you got to be a stoic, to really get to that level. But I think we're all capable of it. I think that there's a way to handle what's happening in the moment and not react to it, but just calmly respond. Oh, okay, I didn't go the way I thought it would. Oh well, that's a response. Just like acknowledging that it happened. You're not like, oh, it didn't happen and I'm not looking. No, you're acknowledging it, you're responding, but you make a choice in that moment to say, "Ah, that's it. I'm done for the day," And maybe you need like maybe you need to walk away for the rest of the week. Maybe that is like just maybe you're just burnt out. Maybe you're just tired. Hey Diego. Yeah, risk management. That's I can definitely see that was probably one of the things I worked on a little bit more so, and then started to handle the emotions of losses. Because obviously if you're over risking or over leveraging, then when a loss happens, you probably are going to feel it a lot more. It's going to be a lot harder to do what I'm telling you I do because you overdid it. You really have to just be accepting when you say, okay, before I get in this trade, you like, I have to write this down. Why? Because if I don't write it down and I try to rely on this while I'm in the trade, it's literally like a blindfold has been put over me. And I'm like, wait, what was that level I said I was going to get out? Oh, shoot. Price is moving against me. I don't remember. I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like if you have a plan and it's written down, you can take a moment to step back from the crazy market and you can just be like, okay, what was my plan? Okay, I said I was going to get out here. Okay, my take profit's up here. Okay, where's price at? Okay, all right. We're getting close. I might have to get stopped out here. You have a plan though. And I know the hardest thing sometimes is to pull that trigger and accept that it didn't go your way. But think about the other alternative to that. If I don't adhere to the plan, chances are it's going to hurt me more financially, right? Just be real. Like if price is coming to your stop and you put a reasonable stop level where you're like, okay, the market has invalidated my decision here. I'm thinking this, and it's like way over here. That's it. The structure has been broken. Who cares if it comes back over here later? That's beside the point. You said you were going to stop here. You have to adhere to that. You have to have the discipline to say, I'm getting out when I said I was going to get out. And then you can assess after the fact when your mind is clear, right? Yeah, exactly. Y'all, maybe that's a whole other video I'm going to have to make, right? Risk management. I think part of the problem with risk management is people talk about that and they don't really tell you what to do. It's like, oh, make sure you got risk management. What does that mean? What does that mean? Right? I know for me what it means because I trade a specific strategy and I always trade that strategy. If you're the kind of person who is trading multiple different strategies, then obviously you got to have multiple different risk management styles. But if you want to keep it simple, like I do, because I'm like, let's keep trading as simple as freaking possible. It's challenging enough as it is. Why should we make it any harder on ourselves? Have a plan, knowing that, like, okay, every trade I get in, what is an acceptable level? Don't look at the money. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes I made for many months early on, was I was always looking at the money of it. Oh, I don't want to risk more than $50. I don't want to risk more than 20, whatever it might be. That's the wrong way to set your stop, right? That's the wrong risk management. Like I fully realized I was wrong. Okay. And just fully admitting it. Look at the chart, and this is going to determine whether you should even take that freaking trade or not. Okay. Look at where your take profit is, likely. Look at where your stop should be structurally, and say, am I willing to get in right here and now where price is at, knowing that my stop could be way down there, structurally. Okay. It's not invalidated, but it's pretty far away. Or am I looking at it and saying, okay, risk isn't too bad here. Maybe this is my A plus trade. This is the difference between A plus quality trades and B or C or F, right? I just skip D, go right to F. This is the difference, y'all. Because if you can say, I don't know, like, here's my price entry, TP's like up here, okay, but stop is also about even distance away. The risk ain't worth it. Like, let's just be real here. The risk ain't worth it if you're going to possibly make what you would have lost. Because what does that end up doing to your P&L? You're either a break-even trader or you're a loss, right? You've got to look for the trades that give you more reward than the risk. So when I see a trade, even if I see like a really good reward, I also very intently scrutinize what are the levels here that would invalidate this trade, and do I have to wait for price to come way past my entry in order to invalidate it? Because that to me is not a great trade. To me, a great trade is like, okay, we've got, supports, we've got like levels here. I'm not too far away from where, price came down to. I don't think it will, but if it came down here, trade invalidated, and I'm not going to be like giving more back in, losses than I would in gains. Diego says, it's wild how muscle memory starts to kick in. You naturally start managing risk, which helps me not get so emotional. Yeah. Once you start a habit, what I call a success habit in risk management, and you're like, okay, and you have like actual experience where you were in a hot mess and you're like, okay, I got to get out, and then you do, that builds confidence. That builds a habit. You said you were going to do something, you freaking did it, right? You kept your word. You are integrous. You have integrity. And you build upon that. Because every time you get in that situation again, you're like, yeah, I remember that other one, and I was just really glad I got out when I did, because it could have been way worse. You're building confidence and you're stacking wins. Even though it's not a winning trade, you're stacking a win for yourself. mentally. This is how you handle losses, right? You know that in the past you could do this. This ain't nothing new, right? You just have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing it and build it. Diego says, last month I had an entire red week. I take it as a learning curve. Absolutely. One freaking week does not define you as a trader. Like, even if you said 52 weeks in a year, right? And let's be realistic, the actual trading days is something like 46 or 47 weeks, something like that. Taking out holidays and whatnot. That you look at that, you're like, man, this is a drop in the bucket. Okay, so what? I had an off week. Then you just make the decision, come next Monday, I'm starting fresh. All that's behind me. I'm not looking in the rearview mirror like, oh yeah, shoot, I remember that. What happens when you look in the rearview mirror and your attention is like up here and behind you? You crash, right? You got to be driving and paying attention, looking forward. Looking backwards, aside from analyzing your trades, for a short period of time, that doesn't help you anymore. It's in the past. It's done. You can't take back what you lost, right? Not until recently I started moving to levels instead of P&L. Yeah, I think it's hard, as a beginner trader, because you're so focused on like, I don't want to lose money. I really gotta be good with my money. But just when you start to kind of have a strategy forming for you that maybe you're not profitable yet, but you're at least starting to understand it and you're starting to execute with consistency. And by consistency, I mean you're doing the same thing every time. You're getting the trade in the same way, you're finding your trade the same way, you're executing the same way. That kind of consistency. And then looking at like structure. And for me, I define structure as, if I'm in an uptrend, I'm looking for higher highs and higher lows. So if something breaks a higher low, to me, that's invalidating because that ain't supposed to happen. We're supposed to be seeing higher highs, higher low, like continuing, Shouldn't be like, okay, we're going upstairs, then whoop, we took the elevator. And it shouldn't be like that, right? And if you're selling, it should be lower lows, lower highs. So each time the high comes, it's a lower than it was before. And if that's invalidated, if suddenly like price is like, no, we're going to go way up past that last high, that's it. Game over. We're done. I'm a one strategy trader, one kick 10,000 times, not thousands of kicks. Yes, Bruce Lee. Absolutely. I know exactly Option Bounty Hunter. What quote? It's a really good quote because trading is so full of so many different nuances. I mean, all you got to do is go on freaking Amazon.com and type in like trading or day trading, and you're going to get bombarded with like millions of people's theories, books, strategies, candlesticks, chart patterns, VWAP, blah, 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 blah. And it's very easy to get caught up in the nuances. And if you can just stick to one freaking thing long enough to see it through, it can work. But I will share, I did this trying to trade like Ross Cameron, scalping, and that was me. I was sticking to it. I was just gonna keep going. And I was like, it's been a while. it's been a hot minute. I've been doing this and it's still not working. Okay, time to shift gears. And I think allow yourself that chance, that window of opportunity to think, okay, if I have been serious and I've been consistent about one specific strategy and it's still not working for me, it's still not making me profitable, that's when you should consider a change. Give it enough time. I think for most people, like, most consistent people, you should know within a few months, depending on whether you do this full time or not, but you should probably know within the first few months. I probably stuck it out a little too long, but I was just determined. It's like, some people you just can't tell them no. Like that might be me, But at the same time, I stuck it out long enough till I found somebody I thought, let me try his way because this looks a little bit simpler and I think maybe I can do it. And, I like this idea of trading, holding trades and swing trading. So when I shifted, it worked, but I think don't stay too long. If you're trying something and it's been months and it's going to be different for everybody. Been like, 3, 4, 5 months and it's still not working. Like y'all, I know people that just I kind of just want to slap them upside the head, lovingly, but they come to this because they know I'm a trader, right? They know I've been doing this for a while. They'll come to me and be like, Amy, like, can you look at this strategy for me? And like, can you check it out and see if this is a good strategy? And I'm like, why would I stop doing what I'm doing that's working, that got me here, to go play around with some other strategy so that I can vouch for you because you don't want to actually do the work and you don't want to actually learn about it and you don't want to actually like risk anything. You want me to go, because I had to explain to a friend who just didn't know anything about trading really, that in order for me to say this was a working strategy or not, I had to put money on the line. I can't just look at it and be like, oh, let me just watch some videos. Yep, this is a good strategy. Like, please, y'all, if you if you trade like this, realize you gotta put the money on the line at some point. Understand if you want to do the demo. Test it out, see if it works, but also recognize that when you're doing demo, you're not getting the full picture. You're not getting the emotions involved. It's not real. It's fake. Great, you can test some things and see if it works, but you got to put the money on the line at some point. Don't stay in the demo trades. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Diego. Yeah, paper trade it just to check, see like whatever. And that's what I try to tell my friend too. I was like, just get on the freaking demo. But I think this is the part where I want to just slap people lovingly, is that they want to go the easy route. They want to shortcut the process. And if you're here watching this video right now, you know for a fact, as do I, there are no shortcuts. Okay. Trading is not let me just pick up my phone, place a trade, and let's see what happens. Oh, I can win. Long term, you're probably going to lose a lot of money if you trade like that. And if you have that mentality of like, I'm just going to like play around in the markets. I'm just going to, the markets are hot right now. Let's see what happens. You are not a serious trader. Okay. You are a gambler is what that is. That's the definition of gambling. And I fully admit for a long time, I felt like a gambler because I had nothing working. Yeah, no shortcuts. Exactly. And I'm just, you all get it. I'm clapping for you because you know that you know that you know. I don't care if you started trading like a month ago. If you're still here, you know that there's no shortcut. And it frustrates me that people will, I guess because I'm, toot my own horn, leveling up. I'm really not like where I want to be, but I'm much better than I was, I get people coming up to me now that it's funny, they don't even know like my trades. They don't know what I'm making or anything like that. I really don't share that stuff. But it's like an aura, it's like a vibe that I apparently put out. And people are like, oh, Amy, you know what you're talking about. Like, can you help me? Can you show me steps A through Z and 1 through 1,000? Like, it doesn't quite work that way. Like if it was that easy, y'all, like wouldn't we all be super rich and, busting around in our Lamborghinis and super yachts? Like if it really was that simple of, hey guys, go on Amazon and buy the 1 to 1,000 steps to becoming a very rich trader. Don't you think we all would be there by now? Why do you think that you can just kind of ask somebody like to show you exactly what to do and it's always going to work? Do the work, man. Do the work. 500 trades in 1 year. It recently started making sense. No shortcuts. Yeah. Because I've jumped around on so many different platforms, I never really added up specifically Option Bounty, like what my number of trades was. But I think probably in the first, because I stopped day trading and scalping around end of month 9. I was well over 100 trades. But I don't know if I was between 200 or 400. I know that I didn't take as many as most day traders, but I think that was also because I didn't have the self-awareness at the time either to like realize that I really didn't want to take multiple trades in a day. I really wanted to take one and be like, that's it, I'm out, and then to realize I could do that every week or a handful a month and make even more money. I'm out, But yeah, I think it's a matter of everybody's journey is different. So when you're going through the losses and you're going through the learning curves, it's like everybody's going to have a different number of, okay, I had to take this many trades before I finally got it through my thick skull. Some people are just, it's just going to take you more because you're stubborn. And I'm kind of talking to the men here a little bit because I did a little bit of research. No offense, guys. Did a little bit of research on Gemini because I was curious. Naturally, as a woman, I've always felt like, women have a little bit of like intuition, a little bit of like trusting their gut. Whereas guys, sometimes I admire the courage and the boldness that men have that's kind of like innate, I would say, in most men, to just, oh, that's it. I'm going to try that trade. I'm getting into market. But at the same time, if you look at consistency and profitability long term, the learning and the stick to itiveness of female traders actually eventually starts to surpass men. Though we make up a very small percentage, it is growing. There's more and more female traders out here every day. But there is something about the way men and women think differently, where women are more, I guess you would say, I don't know if it's the right word, risk averse, like, whereas guys are a little more like gung ho, like, well, let's just try it. Full send, like, let's just get in there and see what happens. And sometimes I wish I had more of that quality. But in other cases, I'm like, hey, slow and steady freaking wins the race. If I got to beat a turtle who eventually will cross that finish line versus the rabbit who burns himself out before the finish line, I'm okay with that. If it takes a little longer, I'm okay with that. Just kind of like knowing where your strengths are. Diego says, BB7 says, dude, the difference from sim trading to real trading was insane. Even now, if I have a bad week and go back to sim, it doesn't generally help the emotional triggers. Absolutely. Because like you are not experiencing in real time. It's kind of like, just playing around with freaking Monopoly or, playing poker with fake money. Like you don't care. You're like, oh yeah, ante up, like keep going. But if it's your freaking money on the line, you're not as risk taking because you have a chance to lose. You have a chance to actually give back some of your cash, right? It's a little more meaningful than watching something on a paper trade or a demo account. Took me a year of learning and blowing real money until I actually started to see consistency in the metrics. Yeah, I think, first of all, good job on you for sticking out for a year, because I guarantee you, that'll be another stat I'll look up one day. How many people quit before one full year of trading? Maybe they got in and they thought like, oh, I'm going to make it work in like 3 months. Game on. And then they see what happens in 3 months. Or 6 months. Maybe they had a good run. It was a good bull market, couple of months, things are a little easier. Buy and sell, simple. Then it becomes volatile. Then it becomes earnings season. Then it becomes war. And it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was going to be like this. And those people fall by the wayside because they aren't prepared mentally and with losses to handle this. And that's okay. We are what is it? I think after a year, it was something like maybe there was like 5% left. Let's ask Gemini real quick. Let's see. How many people are still on this trading game? Y'all put in the chat. I'm curious. What do you think the number is? What do you think? Like, let's be real. Gemini could be wrong. But what do you think is the number of people who quit trading in less than 1 year before they hit that 1 year? Let's see. See who's left standing, Okay, so the 1 month cliff. Let's see, what do you guys put? 90%. Hey, Matt. I was kind of the mindset of like maybe there's like 5 to 10% left. And it says the 1 year mark, by the time 12 months rolls around, 70 to 80% of retail accounts have stopped trading. Okay. So maybe there's like 20%. Let's redefine this a little bit. I'm going to say full time. Okay. Because anybody could be like, oh, yeah, I'm at work and I'm making money. I'm just trading on the side. Just trading on the side because it don't mean much. Let's see if it's any different here. Okay. Full-time traders 50 to 60. Okay. Is that what it's saying? 40%. It says 40% who survive past year one are almost universally those who treated trading as a game of strict risk parameters, protecting their downside. So they're saying that there's maybe 40% of people doing this full time that make it to past year one. So I was thinking it was much less, but let's change the metrics here. Um, Full time, yeah, Matt, I thought full time there would be more people leaving too. It's actually the opposite. I guess because the mentality is that if you're doing it full time, you're like, I'm doing it until it works. If you're doing this part time, and no shade, like I get it. You got to do the day job. Totally get it. But it is a different mentality when you're like, no, this is my only option. Option one is my only option. There's a little bit more mental strain on you, right? Option Bounty says, I went full time, burned the ship, had to make it work. See? That's what I'm saying. You got to burn the freaking ship. There ain't no plan B here. Okay. But it's interesting, that, okay. So then it says the 2-year survival rate. Okay. Well, I want to more like where I'm at. Let's say 18 months full time versus part time. Let's see who's left standing here. I mean, when you talk about profitability stats, that really narrows the field, right? A lot of people are really just trying to get some stable ground in the 12 months to 18 months. Let's see. Okay, so part-time traders, 25 to 30%. The account is still open and occasionally active, but rarely acting as a primary or structured income vehicle. So it's like, yeah, they 25% to 30% of the part-time people survived, 18 months. Then here's where we go. Full-time traders, 15 to 20% that kept going at 18 months. So that's where it shifts, interestingly to say. Yeah, and no, like I said, Matt's no shade keeping the job. Like you got people dependent on you. I mean, I'm blessed. I don't have any kids. Like I depend on myself. But it's an interesting thing that there's a shift, right? At year one, there's more people still trading, part-time. But at the 18 months, it's kind of like, oh wow, the full-time people really fell off, right? 15 to 20 instead of 25 to 30 that are doing it part-time. And that's like, this is my full-time. I'm not going back to a job. That's 15% make it. So yeah, we're in a 15% if you're like me past 18 months. I'd be curious about the profitability stats, but that's a whole other story. uh Matt says, sitting on my hands for a full week now. Good job for you. I remember your comments like before about having some struggles. Yeah, the 6 losses. And good job for you waiting for that setup. Cause man, I look back at some of the months that were my best months where I took 1 or 2 trades. And I'm like, what is the difference here? Cuz I had like a recent loss and I was like, what's escaping my mental capacity right now? Like what was different then versus now? And I came to the realization that I took a B trade. I took it like not an A plus quality setup, right? And if you could just adhere to that very strict, specific setup that you always trade, okay? Like I get it. Some people have multiple setups. I understand. But if you can just win from one consistently, I think you're better off. Just my opinion. Not saying you are, but just my opinion. That's what worked for me anyway. Not trying to have multiple setups. Not trying to, even because Matt and I talked about this last stream, was like trading one ticker, one thing. Because what ends up happening is your brain will start to recognize its patterns and its behaviors. Absolutely, things can change at any point in time, and they most certainly do all the time in the stock market. But when you're focused on one ticker, and I'll give it grace, like, because sometimes I'm fluctuating between gold and something. If you just look at like 2 things and you say, okay, either these present me an opportunity here that is like, I tell myself this now because I realized this was the difference. Is this setup so stupidly obvious to me to get in this trade right now? Is it stupid obvious that this is my setup? And if the answer is no, or like, ah, stay away. Wait until it's like just clear as day, clear as day that that's your setup. That's the one to get in. And I know that the last, I look back at the, last few losses over a few months. I can almost say there was like maybe two trades, one or two that wasn't the issue. Something else weird happened. But for the most part, I definitely at least could have saved myself some heartache and some money if I had stuck to an absolute A plus quality. Like one of the things I kind of am challenged with is that I wonder if do I avoid a trade because I'm worried or fearful of a loss? And that kicks in something that is not necessarily healthy for me, which is this sort of like competitive, like, no, I'm not scared. I'm getting in this trade. I ain't scared of nothing. And it's like, those are the stupid trades where I wish I would have just like, shut up, ego. If it's not your A plus quality setup, what are you doing here? Walk away, right? Set your alerts, walk away. Diego says, this month, June, will be my 1 year and I still work full time as a truck driver. Hey, good for you, man. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing trading and doing your job. I just recognize because I've been in the boat of, for example, before I became an entrepreneur, I had a full-time job working for an insurance company, and I was trying to be an entrepreneur. I was doing ebook publishing on Amazon. And I know how dedicated and committed you have to be in order to balance two things like that. So there's two sides to this coin. There's the people that are doing two things, working their tail off, because they're like, I'm gonna do it. I'm getting out of this job. Or maybe you love your job, and maybe trading is for you is just like is a hobby. And if you're good at it, like good for you. I think for me, I couldn't have it as a hobby. I had to make it a full-time because I wouldn't take it seriously enough. And I know the position I was in when I was working a job and I was trying to quit. I was trying to get that income up enough where it was like so mentally like exhausting. You're working full time, 40 hours a week, and you're trying to do this other thing on the side, many other hours a week, and you're trying to work on your mindset, and you're trying to juggle finances, and you got, and it was like so overwhelming. So I think at some point something kicked in for me mentally that was like, you will never be in that situation again, ever. I would do whatever the freak it takes because there's a part of me that has a belief that is like, I do not work a job. I don't, like there's just this like, there's this grit. There's this like second level of energy somewhere down deep that's like, I will not be in that situation ever again. And if you don't feel that way, that's totally fine. I'm just telling you, I had to get to that point and recognize I had that fire that would keep me fighting in a sense to stay an entrepreneur. Come next month, it'll be 11 years, baby. Okay. 11 years of like, I will never be back there ever. Matt says, I'm definitely much more convinced once my setup shows. Yes. Yes. That's another thing. No wavering, because when your setup presents itself, you've done the discipline and the work in order to say, hey, I am so dedicated to my strategy and my setup that I refuse to take anything else, that might look somewhat like it, but really isn't. And then, like you said, when the strategy and the setup shows itself, game on, because that's what I was waiting for. Okay, maybe I had to wait 10 days. Maybe I had to wait 8 days. Maybe I had to wait, a whole freaking 3 weeks or something. You never know, right? But the only time I've really shifted gears is if I traded something for 2 months and it was more consistently inconsistent, like gold was for a while. I was like, all right, well, we're shifting things because 2 months is, like I'm taking trades, but it's just not working out. So there was a period of time where I was like, okay, I got to change something. But aside from that, I think it's just sticking to what you know for you is your A plus quality setup. And even if you're a day trader, like recognize you don't have to trade every single day. There ain't no like somebody checking on you, behind the scenes, like, oh, Billy didn't take a trade today. Must be losing his edge. Like recognize that it's okay that you don't take a trade every day. That's something I learned as a swing trader was that even if it's days and days of nothing, you are winning and you're still showing up. Okay. You're protecting capital and you're still showing up. And if that setup ain't there, it ain't freaking there. Don't force it. Don't be like, oh, I think that little wick, come on. I cannot tell you how many trades I've taken because I have to take a trade before. Yeah, I mean, man, I know how it is being in a job and being like, I cannot wait to get out of this thing. I am going to put some stuff on the line. I'm going to risk certain things because I'm willing to do what it takes to get out of it, and at the same time, that can come back to bite you. It's like, I remember when I was publishing ebooks, there was a couple I put out just because I was like, oh, well, this could make money, without really doing the proper research and stuff. And I was hiring ghostwriters to write ebooks for me. And I was just like, after the fact, when the book bombs, I'm like, man, what was I thinking? And I was just like, well, I thought I had to keep putting books out every week, regardless if I had good ideas or good research behind them. Yeah, totally get it. Patience is my new virtue. Yeah. And it's like, what's funny though? That is what it takes in the beginning before it becomes a habit. Once it actually becomes a habit for you and okay, this is the game plan. This is the strategy. I wait until. No ifs, no ands, no buts. Until is the word. Until the setup shows. Then it's more of, I'd say it kind of shifts from patience to like understanding and awareness that you are still putting in the work. You are still like showing up for your trades, looking, checking the markets, setting alerts maybe. You're still putting in work. That's still part of your trading job, right? And if it's not there, it ain't there. And I'm not telling you, that you got to sit hours a day looking at charts. That's not what I do, by the way. Like I actually, some days I think I overanalyze a little too much and I'm like, oh, I've been sitting here for half an hour, and I'm like, that's too long. And it's only because I know if I stare at a chart too long, I could possibly see things that aren't there, or I could just really question myself and really doubt myself. Diego says, I do good under pressure, but it would be nice to have the right environment to trade with less stress eventually. There's a trick for that. Kind of in the realm of handling losses. One of the other things I do is to make sure I'm taking care of my peace of mind. So in the mornings, like even though I'm on Pacific Coast, which kind of sucks for trading, you got to get up early to catch anything really noteworthy. Or to really see what the market's doing. I do not check the markets immediately upon waking. Because what does this do? It creates an adrenaline spike. So if you're like this, I would say adjust your schedule just a little where you can get up and have like at least a good 15 minutes to yourself, getting ready in the morning, whatever it might be, before you open the charts. Okay. As I used to do this, sometimes I would had a really bad habit of doing it in bed. I'm like, not even, I still got like the stuff in my eyes. Like I could barely look at the chart. What was I thinking? I don't know. And it would instantly cause stress because then I'd be like, oh, shoot, prices coming to my level. Like, should I get in? Is it going to fake? I don't know. And it's like, why put yourself through that first thing in the morning? So just a thought for that. The other thing I recommend is doing some form of meditation. Me personally, I try to make meditation as stupidly easy as possible. I picked like a 10-minute one. Sometimes I'll listen for 20 minutes if I'm feeling really like I can sit still for a bit. At least 10 minutes, just, either a guided visualization type thing on YouTube or just something that's like meditation music. And just allow yourself to close your eyes, breathe in deep. If thoughts come and go, they will. Don't worry about it. Just keep doing it, right? What will happen for you is you actually are resetting your nervous system. which is one of the issues with trading is that we are constantly spiking the nervous system. Okay. I know this because I was started monitoring my own heart rate. And I was like kind of shocked how fast, I'm thinking about something with trading, look down, oh shoot, like I'm spiking my heart rate right now, just 10 seconds later thinking about it. So I really work at and consistently work at finding ways and means to keep the level of heart rate and my nervous system energy to keep it at a calm, sustainable level. Because I know if I can do that, I can always think more clearly. So whether I'm in a trade and I have to make a decision, like, do I get out here? Is it coming down to my stop? I can at least think more clearly about it if I'm in that calmer state. Or, if you're looking to get into one, you're not like FOMOing, you're not like, oh my gosh, price is going to leave me. You're not worried about wicking out or, something going against you. You can just kind of like, I'm cool. You're a little more detached, a little more calm. There was a supplement I found recently in my research. It's called L-theanine, and it is an amino acid. So it's something that actually will. 'Cause I drink caffeine. I drink energy drinks just to kind of wake myself up in the morning. And I like a little bit of caffeine. Nothing crazy, but wake me up. And I was like, man, it would be nice to not get the overstimulant side of caffeine, just the alertness. So I did some research. L-theanine, you can take it like as a capsule. And I started taking that alongside my morning drink. And it was like, ooh, I am alert. I am feeling better. And I'm not feeling like, like watching candles and like, energy all over the place. It's like way more even calm. So highly recommend that combo if you're a caffeine drinker. Um, yeah, it's hard. Hardest part for me, especially this last month, been so cold. It's okay not to trade multiple days in a week. Yeah. I mean, come to think of it, guys, like if you think about it, what told you that you had to? Who told you that you to be a real trader, you got to trade like this many days a week or this many days a month or take this many trades a month or this many trades a year? Who set up these fake boundaries, these fake rules and limitations? Nobody. Unless you're listening to people that try to tell you that, in which case everybody's in their own lane. Like never listen to someone that says like, make sure you only take this many trades or make sure you take at least this many. What do they know? They're not you, right? Everybody's in their own lane. Everybody's doing their own thing. This is a solo journey. Sure, people can guide you along the way, but I would never say believe anything just for the sake of believing it. Just because every other YouTuber trader is like, yeah, I take 200 trades every week, and I'm killing it. Great. Good for you. Do I want 200 trades of stress every single week? Heck no. Maybe one. Maybe. And I say maybe because some weeks there ain't even one. Matt says, what I'm struggling with right now is my bias was correct, but my setup didn't show and the trade went without me. So I don't know if me not trading is to treat it as a loss or a win. Oh, interesting perspective. Well, when that's happened to me, which it has, or like one of my frustrations in, I think March especially, was my setup would show, especially on gold, um, in the freaking London session. I'm like, that's like midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. for me. I ain't up trading at that time, right? So I totally get it. You're waiting and waiting, you're doing the work, you're waiting, patient, and your setup leaves you, and you're like, what the heck? I would say if it's a repeat offender, Matt, that possibly consider, either the ticker, the behavior has changed, or, if you were like, I just don't see it, realize that if you'd gotten in that trade and you didn't see your setup and you had that panic moment of like, oh man, did I just get in the wrong trade? You kind of saved yourself a little bit from the mental stress because you want to get into every trade with full conviction versus, I think this is going to work. I don't know. It's a lot better to get into that trade with like I feel it versus I don't know. I think it's going to go here. Like, for instance, I was watching something play out 100% exactly as I predicted it in my mind this morning. But I said, first of all, Amy, it's a Monday. I am extremely cautious about entering any trades on Monday. In fact, I don't know that I ever have since I've started my new strategy. Very cautious. And secondly, when it did what I thought it would do, and I was right, I looked at it and I said, but was it a real trend or was it a wick? Because by all means, you can see these wicks, go exactly where you think it's going to go. But if you didn't have your proper take profit set up or stop in case it went the other way super fast, you could be in potentially a bad situation. So, I'd say don't beat yourself up. Analyze to see if maybe there was something on the chart that you just didn't see and you kind of missed that, because I think that can happen too. Um, or consider that the ticker itself, the behavior has changed. I see things sometimes now on stocks and whatnot that you'd think that meant one thing a little while ago, and then you saw it do it, at a different time of day, and you're like, wait, why is price surging at, the power hour? It usually surges in the pre-market, or like you see some weird behavior. It's okay. Everything you're doing, watching this stuff is observation, learning, and pattern recognition. So now you kind of have this data point in your mind of like, okay, I saw this happen before, and yet my setup wasn't there, but then it went where I wanted it to go. So possibly looking back at the charts for that trade, was there any like clues? I sometimes come. This is what I do. I sometimes like, okay, I completely missed this. Was there a clue that I did not see? And sometimes when you're out of a trade and you have a different perspective, right? You're like, oh, yeah, I completely missed when price, made this structure, or I didn't look at all the time frames, because I like to flip through different time frames. I'm looking at 1 hour, 4 hours, sometimes even daily. And then I'll even go down to like 30-minute and see, is there something happening here behind the scenes that is price building up? Is price staircasing down, something else happening where I'm just not seeing the full picture. So just, kind of dig a little deeper, see if you missed something. If not, then I would really say don't worry too much about it, because you weren't convicted. And if you got in that trade and it didn't play out, I mean, that's kind of even like worse, because it's like, man, my setup wasn't there and it didn't go my way, but I got in anyway. What's up, Thomas? Do I have a fixed time for my lives? No, I just kind of jump on here whenever I'm inspired to speak about something. So I apologize that it's erratic. Most of the time, you will not see me on here late at night or anything like that. But I will say, if you turn on the notifications, hopefully you get the bell notification to your phone. Make sure it's turned to all, because YouTube has this habit of like, you turn on notifications and then it's like, oh, we're just going to send you some of them. We're not going to send you. No, make sure it says all, and then you'll get notified. Sync is my thing. Hemisync. What is that, Reagan? Hemisync. Matt says, I like that. I'm going to treat it as an anomaly for now. I'm going to see if the exact same thing leaves me out several times and then take it from there. Yeah. Like I had a trade, and I think this was in, I can't remember, it was in March or April. I was trading a leveraged ETF, and I was like, what the heck? Like, it did not follow the index it was supposed to follow. And the index went up and my trade went down. And I'm like, wait, it just moved like 50 points. I got nothing, it never even really went above my entry. And I had to take it for what it was, as an anomaly that, I talked to AI about it. I'm like, what the heck happened? Because I ended up just closing. I was like, if it didn't move with the 50-point move, it's not going to move for anything else, right? And so I closed a trade. I took a little loss, nothing crazy, but it was like a bummer, because I was like, I was right, and my trade was right, but this didn't work, So I had to just accept it for what it is. That sometimes, you trade these leveraged ETFs and you're trading an index, and for whatever reason, maybe the volume is low, maybe it's already been priced into the current price, if that makes sense. Like if you enter and the price is $100 and then the index continues going, maybe that's just where the market was like, okay, this is the leveraged part. We're not moving ahead. I think, the only other thing I could think of that day was potentially a volume thing. But I don't think I actually ever went back and looked at the average volume versus that day's volume. Aside from it, it was a learning lesson, and it was kind of like, well, Amy, maybe it's time to shift gears and trade something else. It was kind of like what it showed me. So it wasn't necessarily like a terrible thing. Wasn't what I really loved have it happen, but it wasn't horrible. I trade the 1 minute, Diego. Yeah, I used to trade the 1 minute, the 5 minute, and the 10-second because that's what Ross Cameron traded. And I was just following what he did. It's like, talk about feeling anxiety and just stress, And I was like, maybe there's another way, And I'm glad that I found Trades by Sai because I really liked that he's talking about calmer way of trading, looking at a 1 hour chart, looking at a 4 hour chart, because ultimately what that meant for me was not so much that it was a slower pace. It meant that, okay, I can look at this chart and I can see a trend, because the the higher time frames, the more likely the trend continues. So, you've done like a day trade and you get in on a 1 minute, 5 minute chart and you get out and you made some money. You're like, yeah. And then you go back later that day and you're like, oh my gosh, the stock went up another 800% without me, And had you been looking at a higher time frame, now granted that's small caps, but let's just pretend. Had you been looking at a smaller or higher time frame, you might have said, "Yeah, this is a great trade to get in and hold," for a trend. So that's just me. Robert Monroe. Oh, okay. Binaural beats and deep relaxation. Gotcha, Reagan. Gotcha. Hemisync. I have to look into that. I know binaural beats. But yeah, anything that like calms this space between your ears, like whatever you guys can do to like keep that noise and chatter and craziness going on up there, keep it at a minimum, keep it at a dull roar, is good for you. It's good because then you can think clearly and you can see the charts, and literally, I don't know if I mentioned this on a previous stream, but literally neuroscience, read this in a book. Neuroscience proves that when your emotions are running rampant, especially in trading, your brain, literally your brain shuts down the logic functions, okay? Literally. So for you to try to make a logical decision about keeping a trade, selling partials, or taking a loss, or getting in or getting out, regardless, that part of your brain isn't even turned on. Okay. The logic part has left the building. So you have to kind of consider to do whatever you can do to make sure your emotions are not going off the charts. Keep it calm. Because what's actually happening is they likened it to a mask, a veil. It's literally like putting this over your eyes and trying to see the charts. This is what's happening. You're like, I don't know. I can't see. And then you panic even more because you can't see, right? Matt says, I like what you said about imagine if I played it and the setup wasn't there and I would be wrong. That would make me feel really stupid. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, oh man, so many times I look at the charts and I was like, man, I could have got in there. I thought that it was going to go up and sure enough, it went up and now it's like way over here. It's way too late to get in. But in the moment of trying to decide that trade, price was so, even on like a 1 hour, which is a big time frame for most people. And you see prices just like this constantly. You don't have as much conviction in that versus if you have a nice, clean, trending chart, and you can see things clearly. That's my kind of way of trading. So I avoided, hands down, several times I could have been massively had something go against me because it seemed like it was just bullish, 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 no real pullbacks, no real connection. Sure, you could have made money if you jumped in, but it would have been like jumping in with a pool of sharks. You didn't know if you were going to get bit. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the way I want to trade. I don't know about you, but I could be right all day long, but am I going to survive? That's the thing, you know. The 1 minute works for me. It's exciting for me, but yeah, everyone has to trade where they're comfortable. Yeah, I mean, that's another, that's interesting you say that, Diego, because you said you were trading for about a year. Trading used to be exciting for me. And I was really glad when it started to not become that. And I don't say that in a negative way. I say that in a growth way, because when I finally kind of got into like a groove and, I'm doing my strategy, I'm consistent, I'm making a little bit of money, I realized that the unexcitement of it is actually what was working for me. Because then I could see things in a calm state of mind. I could see things clearly. I was very, very, very patient and looking for confirmations before I got into trades. I wasn't feeling FOMO. It still happens from time to time, but it's nowhere near like beginning trading, where you feel like you got to be in anything that's running, oh my gosh, it's up 90% on the day already. I got to get in. And I don't feel like that anymore. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Cause then you have that calm peace of mind. So also when you're in a winning trade, when, okay, this is stalling, I can take what I got and I can leave the market here. And you can be okay with being 100% correct and price immediately reverses after you get out. Or you can be totally okay with, hey, price went on for another, $5, $10 a share run. It's okay. You got out, you made money. Woohoo. Like, the excitement part, I think, really has to be turned down a notch. I wouldn't say like we don't do trading because it's boring, but at the same time, I will say my trading improved when it became less exciting in that sense of the word. Diego says that happened to me today. 7% for me. The stock goes up 400. Yeah, I know. I know. Man, I don't think there was ever any day trades when I was scalp trading. I didn't hold those trades for any longer. I think the longest was like 10 minutes. And then there was many of those, like I think it was SBET, SBET was one of the ones I day traded for a quick little scalp, made a tiny little, and that sucker, went on and on for days, if not weeks. And it was one of those where people ended up actually investing in it long term because it did so good. It's like, man, but you stick to your strategy. And my strategy was not, I wasn't going to get up from the desk and hold anything, so I had to just, it is what it is. But now being a swing trader, it's like, hey, I'm trying to hold things, but I'm holding things with intent, if that makes sense. I'm not holding it and like clinging to hope. I'm holding it with intent that, okay, I'm looking for it to go to this level, looking for it to maybe even surpass that, go a little higher. I'm looking for things to continue, but I'm fully accepting that price might not even get to where I think it's going to go. And I got to be like, okay, do I, cut and run, or do I keep holding? Sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong. There's been times lately, especially in these crazy markets, where I'm like, okay, really should have cut and run, a lot of those lately. The trends, and I mentioned this earlier, the trends sometimes feel a little bit more short-lived, a little more short-lived. So now I'm teaching myself as a swing trader, hey, ain't nothing wrong with being in a trade and you're green, and maybe you're not as green as you were hoping to get to. You saw a level and you thought, oh, it'd be cool, price goes back to here, but it doesn't. Take some off the table or close the whole thing. Because I feel like now more than ever, it's become an environment of things can quickly reverse. Things can quickly go the opposite way, and a trend can be invalidated like that, or at least in a way that puts you at a very risky position, where you're like, oh shoot, like, okay, yeah, the trend was going up, made a big old correction. Had I held though, it was, way past where I wanted to get out, making me squeamish. Even if it went up again, that's not how I play. Because that could be one of those where you think it's going to bounce and it never bounces. You're like, oh crap, now I'm really stuck in it. Thomas says, do you use bracket orders with fixed TP and stop loss? No, no stop loss, no fixed order for that because I trade on Robinhood. And the reason I trade on Robinhood is I like the 24-hour markets. I can watch price action, at any point in time, as long as was it Sunday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, they open, and then it closes Friday at 5, I think, 3 or 5, something like that. But it's 24 hours. And the reason I switched over to that was I was trading on TradeStation just prior, and they close at what is it, 5 p.m. my time, and then they don't open until 4 a.m. my time. And a lot of times some of the moves had already been made, where I was like, oh man, I had my take profit order. And because their system wasn't open, I didn't get filled. Right. So that's one of the reasons I switched. But on Robinhood, I don't place the stop. I place a take profit. I do have a hard take profit. Now, most of the time I'm putting a take profit for 50 to 75% of a position because I want to see maybe I can extend it. Maybe I get a little more run out of it. And then I'm always willing to amend as the market changes. But as far as the stop, because of what I trade, which is leveraged ETFs, I don't use stops because oftentimes they're liquidity grabs. And it could be totally have your stop at a very logical place. The price came down there and it would invalidate your trade. Yes, but a lot of times these machines, these algorithms, these things kick on at the top of the hour, bottom of the hour, and they will just, all you'll see is a wick. And you go back and look at the chart, you just see a stupid wick. And then price immediately grabs a bunch of people's stops and bounces right back up, grabs liquidity, grabs people's money. Hey, we're going to keep going now. we just took a whole bunch of people out. Now we can keep going up. And so I just was like, yeah, I ain't playing that game. So that's why I don't have a hard stop. But I do have many alerts. Diego, good stuff. Amy, enjoy your live stream. Great energy. See you on the next one. Absolutely. See you later, Diego. Yeah, truth. And, people will say oh, that's a myth, the whole hunting for stops and things like not really. And it's not in the way that you think. It's not like these sinister people behind the keyboards, institutionals like traders and stuff. It's machine driven. It's algorithmic. And it's they will, look at how many times, right? You look at a chart and you see a gap in price, whether price gapped up or price gapped down. How many times do you see, especially nowadays with so much high frequency trading and algorithms, how often do you see those gaps get filled and then immediately price goes right back to wherever the bottom of the gap or the top of the gap was? Yeah. If that doesn't tell you what's going on behind the scenes, I don't know what to tell you. It doesn't always, sometimes price can moon like crazy. I don't know if you guys own any Micron. But I think it did that at this weekend because I have it on Robinhood. I own Micron, and I saw a crazy pop, and I was like, oh my gosh, it cleared 1,000. Pat myself on the back. My average was 385. This is long-term investing. This is not trading. I'm not trying to get out of Micron. I love Micron. That's some good stuff right there. Liquidity hunt would hit my stop loss every time. I go back a lot of times and I'll say, and what I've learned to do, and this is per trader, figure out if you want to do this, but sometimes if I don't get in for a full position right away in my first buy, which I usually don't, just kind of maybe buy 50% and 50% later. Sometimes I will intentionally place a buy order where I know a liquidity grab could scoop me up. Never super far away because I don't want to be like, oh yeah, let me get filled and price has completely gone against the first buy order. No, it's intentionally placed below and somewhere where I think, price might wick. A lot of times on the opening bell, if you've got your order in during the pre-market and you're like, I really think there's going to be some craziness at the opening bell. I really think I'm going to get some of this action. And you want to get filled for more, put it at a nice, obvious wick level where you're like, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some sellers pushing price down and then some buyers scooping it up. And I want to be one of those buyers picking it up. And then, you get a better average cost, which is always nice. Do I necessarily recommend that for everybody? No, because you have to know your strategy and your setup. And is this the right place for me to add to my order? Because I used to have a fixed mindset where I always said, no, I'm only going to add when price is going my way. Well, guess what, baby? I've had plenty of trades. Price was going my way, all right, and it left me in the dust. I would try to get filled a little higher, and it would just keep going, keep going. And next thing you know, I'm closing out the position and I only ever had 50% in. I was like, dang it. Or you do get filled, but then you're paying a premium, right? You're paying once price went past, your entry and you realize, yeah, I'm in profit, I'm green, okay. And then you're like looking back in time, you're like, oh, well, I could have just gotten in all the way at the first one and then a lot cheaper. So to each their own. But guys, as far as losses, be nice on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. It's better to have grace than it is to be harsh. I think that's what's gotten me here this far. Is at some point in time, I think kind of around, I don't know, 6 to 8 months in, somewhere in there, when nothing was working. By the way, I wasn't making anything, losing and not losing a lot, but I was consistent loser. That was what was consistent. Nothing was working. But I said, if I can just kind of treat myself a little better and recognize that I'm still here, I'm still showing up, I'm still working at it. I'm not giving up. Then I can give myself a little bit of grace and I can feel better. And then ultimately you want to just feel better. Losses are something that you obviously know as a trader, it is going to happen, right? It's just going to happen. It's how you feel about it that changes everything for you. Like, can I tell you that when I started working on the emotions and the physicality behind trading and controlling my physical state, controlling my nervous system, controlling my emotions, controlling my story that I was telling myself, hey, I'm gonna keep going. Like, this is just one trade out of the many, many trades you're gonna take. Think about where you'll be in 5 years. Think about where you'll be in 1 year. This trade means nothing. You learn from it, you move on. It's in the past. Put it behind you. I tell myself all these things, and it was like I could breathe. It was like, oh yeah, whew, okay, I'm okay. Everybody's okay. Everything's fine. I think sometimes the way we think about trading in our minds is it's so blown up, it's so big that it surpasses like everything in your life. And I don't think it should be that way. I don't think it should mean more than your personal happiness and, how you feel about yourself. And I'll also say that, I think there's an element to this of when I was in that losing stage that I was working on, call it what you will. I was like tricking my mind and thinking about how great one day I'm looking at my phone, I'm seeing green and I'm in profit and I'm like feeling good and I'm making winning trades and I'm consistent, I'm building the account balance is going up. I would just kind of like shift to thinking of that, even though it felt sometimes just like straight up lies. There was nothing telling me that that was going to be a reality. Absolutely nothing. And yet I could use experiences in my life in the past where I had manifested something that seemed impossible and to say, well, that's what I did before. Let me just do that again. And at the very least, even if it feels like you're lying to yourself, at least you feel better. How much better is it to like picture, close your eyes and picture like you closing out a winning trade and it was like, it was the best trade you've had yet. And you feel like, yeah, that's right. I did that. Versus replaying the losing trade you just got out of and saying, dang, man, I'm such an idiot. What was I thinking getting in that trade and looking at the chart and like, I don't even know what I was looking, like you're just internally like beating yourself up and replaying it. And it creates an even more strong emotion around losing at that point. Every time you replay that, you're creating a habit for yourself that the next losing trade, you're amping that all up again. You're bringing all that emotion back in. You bring all that hate for yourself and beating yourself up. All of that comes, guess what? It comes even faster. It comes in even stronger. So what I'm telling you is Go the other way with it. Say, I could lie to myself and tell myself what a terrible trader I am. And maybe it seems like that. But if you stick it out long enough with conviction and belief in yourself that you're going to turn this thing around, this ship ain't at its port yet, okay? We're turning around and we're going this way instead. You're fully capable of that. It starts in the mind. If you just have that mentality that I can do this, I can turn this around, and also know that it could happen like that. Guys, seriously, I thought it was going to take like the slow moving shift 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 shift. But when you're losing for so long, that's just kind of how you think. And then when I found a strategy, it was like actually, like, oh, this is me, like this is working. Man, it was like night and day. It was like I went from lose, 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 little win, lose, lose, to like win, 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 maybe a loss. Okay, win, win, win. And you think it's gonna take a long time, but it doesn't. You just have to be like in alignment with your own strategy and your own system and your own thoughts of like, go this way, right? BB7 says, I've made it through every bad day I've ever had. I must be doing something right. Man, you're still here. You're still here. That's, I mean, if anything else, if you maybe had a losing day, losing week, losing month, losing quarter, losing year, please take a second and congratulate yourself and, pat yourself on the back. You are still here. You're watching this video for a reason. Because you still want to do it, you still want to make it work, and you still want to like keep going. I mean, we did the analysis on Gemini over here. Like, the people that didn't even make it a year, they're 60% of them are gone. Like, you're at least in the top 40, okay? If you've been doing this for a year. And even if you haven't, like, I encourage you to go look up statistics and see where you're at on your journey and just how long you've been doing trading compared to all the other jokers that start and, they get scared and they lose some money and they blow up accounts and you never hear from them again, right? So many people start and do not continue the race, but you're still here. That counts. It counts for something. It really does. Market close. Yeah. It was you all along. Yeah. It takes as long as you let it. Exactly, BB7. Takes as long as you get it. Or as you let it. Because like, that's the thing too. I think when I was losing for so long, it was like, okay, I'm realistic about where I'm at. I'm not pretending I'm something I'm not. Fully transparent here on YouTube, for a very long time. And then it was like, can I just, start looking at my progress through different eyes instead of saying like, oh, I have to be making money. Oh, I have to be profiting. Can I just like look at the little wins on a daily basis of like, hey, I cut the trade early. Cool. Maybe I lost, but I cut the trade early. I got out a little sooner. Or I avoided a trade. That one would have been a loser and I didn't get in. That's a win. You got to start like seeing the wins in a different light. And I probably should have said this somewhere along the way about losses. This is probably one of the most important pieces of this whole thing is if you can really, and I mean really detach from the idea of money and your abilities, then you will be free. You just start to feel the chains come off, because if this is, and I get it, it's full time. It's hard not to focus on the money, but excuse me. If you can just really detach yourself from this notion that I am a successful trader because I'm making this much money, or I'm a loser trader because I'm losing this much money, and instead just put aside the whole idea of the money and say, if I just focus instead on the skill, making it about the skill over the money, all of a sudden, like I know you will feel this because I felt this as soon as I had this perception. You feel like stress, like just leave your body, regardless of the facts, regardless of where you came from, where you're going, where you're at right now, regardless of your stats. Put all that aside for a minute and just say, can I just look at trading as a skill that I want to get really, really good at so that eventually I can make a lot of money at? Woohoo! But I'm still going to enjoy my life and I'm still going to enjoy trading while I'm in this place right here and now. Don't be in a rush to say, no, I'm a bad trader because I've been doing this for a year and I'm not making any money yet. And I'm just so mad at myself. Time is irrelevant. Okay. Because again, things will start to click for you, the time won't matter anymore. You're just gonna be like, oh my gosh, it's working. I'm so happy. I don't care that I spent, all this money and I spent, months and months and months, maybe years to get here. You're just gonna be so elated that it worked. Oh my gosh, you're still here and you made money and it worked. It worked. That's all that matters. So right now your focus should be on something you can control, not the money, but rather the skill and what you put focus on, the attention to the skill. What's up, Teddy? Nice to see you back. I started learning how to trade shortly after you. Currently learning when not to trade. Man, I don't know. That sounds like a future video. When not to trade. Found I was profitable until that 1 week I'd blown up the sim account. But hey, man, at least it was in the sim. What's up, Alwyn? Just recently getting into intraday trading. Nice. So yeah, Teddy, don't, first of all, at least it was in the sim. You're learning. You said you started trading shortly after me. Hey, I think one of the big issues with trading is people will go on YouTube and they'll listen to somebody and they'll say, yeah, I'm killing it. I'm making all this money and I've been trading for 1 year. I've been trading for 2 years. Now, a lot of these people are not fully transparent. Okay. Even the people saying 2 years, which seems like a long time, but they're like, yeah, I make 50K a month. Okay. Sometimes if you dig deep into these, videos or their social medias, if they still have it up, some people don't think about this when they say certain things, is that they'll say, yeah, the last 2 years, I've been trading for 2 years and I'm at this level or whatever. They don't tell you that it took them 2 or 3 years before the 2 years to get consistent, to stop blowing accounts, to stop losing money. All of a sudden, they pretend their journey started when they started making money. You know what I'm saying? Just have a little bit of discernment, because I think this plays a big part into how we perceive our own journey. Is we're listening to false data. I'm not going to just straight up say they're lying, but it's false data, right? It's misinformation. And sometimes people are more interested in selling you a course that makes it seem like, hey, with my strategy, you're going to be killing it too in a couple of months because I know how to do it. So when I teach you my strategy, I'm going to be able to teach you to do it in half the time. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay. Maybe they can help you navigate and learn things quicker, but don't just assume because they had some sort of journey that you're going to have the exact same one. Okay. I'm using Claude AI to analyze the stocks with an API connection. Okay, cool. By the way, guys, I get a lot of people asking, both that trade and don't trade. They ask me, do I use AI? Do I use automated, robotic things in my trading? No robots, no automation. I use this. However, I do use AI. I was using ChatGPT until it started getting really snarky with me. So I use Gemini now. And I do use it to sometimes screenshot things and I'll say, I'm seeing this on the chart. Can you confirm? And sometimes it'll see something I don't see. And sometimes it's just straight up wrong. So use it with a grain of salt, because I'll try to program it with my own strategy and I'll give it transcripts and videos and say this is the strategy. And then it sometimes it forgets the next day. So, I use it with a grain of salt. I'm like, okay, I'll take what it has to say sometimes. And other times I'm like, no, you're way off. You're just completely missing it. So I think that as a beginner trader, the best way to use AI is to learn basics because sometimes there's not a lot of information that's easily accessible for people to just learn simple things like how to set up a brokerage, how to buy and sell. What are ETFs? I get this question all the time by people who don't trade and don't really know investing. It's like, for a minute you kind of realize you're talking in a lot of market speak, trader speak, and they don't understand you. And then I literally had somebody like, whoa, like you're using way too many terms here. I don't know what they mean. Understand. I've been doing this for 18 months. I'm kind of like in the zone here. I have to dumb it down and I forget, right? Yeah, and AI fully admits that it hallucinates. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have Robinhood. There's this beta thing they're testing where you can set up a little AI account and you can have it buy and sell for you. And then the disclaimer, the much needed disclaimer, it was like, keep in mind, warning, AI can hallucinate. And I was like, yes, it can, So I haven't tested that. Honestly, y'all, I think AI can be useful as a tool, but I never want to give it power over my learning a skill. I think there's been a little too much emphasis with using AI to fully automate a business, fully automate a trading thing, fully automate an investment thing. And I personally enjoy what I do. So I kind of question, why people set those things up. Is it they're just straight up lazy or they don't love what they're doing? So it's more of just like, oh, easy money. Let me try this, see if it gets me easy money. But me personally, I like the confidence. I like the game of trading too much. Shouldn't even say like, say love, so that I want to be active. I want to be involved. Like I can use AI for a tool, but I'm not letting it run my trading. I'm not letting it run my investing. I like the knowledge of like, I did this, whether it was a right decision or a wrong decision, I did it. And every decision I'm making, because I'm learning every time I'm getting in and out of a trade, or not even trading, but just watching charts, everything's on me. I own it. I own that information. I own that data. I own that knowledge. I have reference points. I have pattern recognition. I don't want to depend on a machine, and I even catch myself sometimes like, oh, I'm asking too many questions of it here. BB7 says, use AI to learn the basics. Yes. Gather information, refine setup levels, analyze data. Yes. Yeah, I kind of use it like a confirmation tool sometimes. Like, okay, I do the work. And then I kind of like ask it, just do you agree kind of thing. And if it says something that I don't necessarily like see, I'll go back and look. Maybe I'm missing some. Oh, okay. I see what it's saying. Okay, yep, let me consider that. Always useful sometimes to maybe have like a second opinion. But yeah, keep your edge, keep your own analysis, right? You should still be the user of the tool. Exactly. Always says, how do you select the stock and do you only take one trade per day? I never take one trade per day. I take, if I'm lucky, one trade a week. Most months I'm between 3, maybe 4 trades, maybe. And as far as stock, I trade indexes. So I don't trade individual tickers. I have not traded in an individual stock ticker for 8 months. I trade the indexes and that's it. And that's served me well because I like trends versus if you trade a stock, all stocks have trends, don't get me wrong. But I think that stocks have much more volatility in the sense of like, if you're a swing trader like me and you hold overnight, the stock could have a piece of news come in overnight and that could plummet it. It could spike it. It could go your way. It could go against you. And that's just the nature of an individual stock, right? But you want something with volume. You want something with a little bit of volatility so you can capture a move, right? Like this is important. But with an index, at least you have a basket of something, or you have a slower moving instrument like gold. And that way you can see a trend. It's pretty unlikely that, like, if gold is looking really bearish, like it's pretty unlikely that, like, overnight it completely turns and goes way to the moon. It's unlikely. Not saying it couldn't happen, but it's unlikely. So that's why I trade that. Reagan says, this is the first trading community I've ever felt comfortable in. Oh, thank you. Hope I see everybody back for next stream. Gotta go. Thanks again for being real. Absolutely, Reagan. Yeah, I've been on here for almost 2 hours, y'all. This is like a record stream for me. I will try, to maybe do these closer to the market close, because I know when I start, sometimes it's, the market's still open, and I stopped paying attention to it a while ago, other than, oh, cool, my HPE is up. Anybody do investing? Because I'll talk for a minute about that. If anybody is interested, let me just pop into Robinhood here. And I bought some extra shares, which is, I'm clapping for myself, y'all. I'm clapping for myself. HPE, okay? So one of my things that I work on when I'm not studying just trading is I've been applying learning lessons from trading into investing. And I've been investing in the stock market since, I opened a 401k back in like 06, but I started learning in 2012. And I kept it on the back burner for many years. But then when I started trading, I basically kind of simultaneously started learning more about investing. And my kind of task for myself in December, no, Alwyn, I won't be doing any live trades. But one of my tasks for myself was to build my IRA from the ground up. So what I did in 24 was I saw the market turning around, and I said, you know what? I've been invested in the S&P for a very long time. I've got gains, cashing out. We're going to start from cash. And I had been progressively buying and selling into the market ever since with my IRA. So my IRA portfolio has become the trial and error experiment. And since December, because I took a long trading break in December. So happy I did that. But I looked at BB7 talking about crypto. I looked at crypto. I started buying more Bitcoin. You said you cashed out last year, got into funding a Roth. Yeah. And I don't blame you for cashing out on crypto. You did it at a good time. I started buying in the sense of, let me just put some money in here because I'm not too concerned about it. I didn't buy a lot, but I looked into Bitcoin, and then I started looking at anything and everything I thought was going to kind of boost AI, that was going to be needed for the AI ecosystem and infrastructure and what it takes to build it out, like from where we were in December. And I'm doing research, and I started buying in January. I started buying a lot of stocks and things. And I said, hey, if it takes 1 to 3 years, so be it. But I'm putting money where my mouth is, and I'm, doing research on Gemini and ChatGPT and asking, like, okay, what does this stock do? What does this stock do? Why would I buy this? What could help this? Give me all kinds of ideas. And I will tell y'all, HPE, Hewlett Packard, boring stock. Okay. Like, if you go look at the 10-year chart on this sucker, boring, no movements. If you'd held it in that time, you would have missed massive gains in the market. However, I asked Gemini, and I said, I've had some winners lately, one of them being Intel, also a very boring stock. But I said it pivoted recently into major AI chip making and helping the whole AI industry. I said, what other stocks could be doing this? What other stocks that have like a business name behind them that could be for like long term, And it said HP. And funnily enough, I look at the chart, I see some action, and I'm like, oh, it's coming out. It's coming out. Like, you could see it breaking out a little bit. I'm like, all right. And then it was like, just keep in mind the earnings are coming, and, this and that. I was like, oh, yeah. But I'm going to hold it. If I buy any, I'm going to hold it. So y'all, tooting my own horn here because it's up 28% in the after hours. My average cost is $38.83. This sucker just shot up to 61. woo, it's a good day. It's a good day. You know, not all things go that way. Not all things go that way. But let's see. Oh, good question here. See ya, Owen. Oh, you were asking about Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin is just it's just in a very long bearish downtrend. The 80K, whatever it got up to, that was a fake out, y'all. It was a fake. It was a liquidity grab. I knew it was going to do it because I could see it building up structure. It's too soon. It's too soon for crypto to come back. It's got to have its bear cycle or whatever. Dogmatic says, any advice on best platforms to use to start an account with? I've been looking, but you're Canadian. Yeah. I don't know if they've changed anything, but my favorite is Robinhood because it's just like, you know, when you, if you're an iPhone user, you know, when you got an iPhone and you were like, oh, it's so easy and simple to use. That's kind of how I felt Robinhood was. It's very easy to buy and sell. They have Robinhood Legend now. So if you like charting and platform stuff that you can add your little indicators and whatnot, I use that on the big screen and I put up the charts over there. And it's 24 hours for a lot of stocks and ETFs, 24 hours. So if something is happening in the world overnight or late, you can watch it on Robinhood, which is one of the very few platforms I think that has 24-hour trading. Now, it does close on the weekend like everything else. You can still trade crypto 24/7 all day long, but the stocks and ETFs that are 24 hours, they will trade in a 24-hour day as long as it's, you know, Monday through Friday. Then Friday they close at, I don't know, I think it's like 2 o'clock Eastern, I think, on Friday. And then it reopens Sunday at like, 8 p.m. Eastern. So that's my favorite platform because I like easy, I like simple. I'm trying to think. You know, I have a friend who's Canadian. He's trying to figure out how to get around the exchange and stuff and all that, and the fees and whatnot. I'll have to ask him if he ever found anything, dogmatics for that, because I know being Canadian, it's like one hurdle after another. It's like they really don't want you to even trade up there. Yeah, BB7 crypto 4-year cycles. Yeah, and a lot of people, I looked at you know, crypto and by the way, guys, I've traded Bitcoin as far as trading. I'm usually shorting it though, if I do trade it. But yeah, as far as the cycles, a lot of people thought, no, there's no cycle. And then it was like, wait, it's kind of in a cycle. You know, they thought because the institutions were buying ETFs and not. I still think even if it doesn't go 4 years, I still don't see Bitcoin and crypto coming back at least till the end of this year, if this year at all, you know? So I'm just like, to me, it's just a wait and see, a wait and see. And if I make some money off it, cool. I ain't betting the farm on it. You know, I'd rather just be part of the AI super cycle because I understand that. And I know kind of like the direction, if that makes sense, you know, the direction of where things are needing to go before they can go further. Like, for example, the reason that Micron shut up so much, they have this enormous backlog of contracts that basically sets them up for like, I think it was like the next 5 years out, maybe 10 of all this stuff they've got to fulfill. And it's some HBM thing. Don't ask me what that is, but it's like this enormous backlog of like, well, we're going to be in business for a while. So it was kind of like a no-brainer for me when I was doing my research and like knowing that what does AI need? Like, what is the most pressing need right now? This was back in January, February. Storage. Needs storage. Needs, you know, data places of storage. So Micron to me was like, of course, you know. From Courtenay, British Columbia. Cool, cool. All right, guys. Well, I'm officially almost at the 2-hour mark, so I'm gonna let you go. We did talk about trading losses and how to handle losses. Go back and watch the replay. And if you have any questions, you know, future topics with trading, me personally, like, you know, people ask, do you live trade or anything? No, because I trade in isolation. I just a solo, quiet environment. However, I've recognized that what has gotten me thus far to become a profitable trader has been so much about mindset, so much about psychology, so much about managing emotions and feeling like how you feel about your analysis, how you feel about your trade, how you feel about waiting for your setup. I mean, a lot of people, we talked about this today. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And where the heck is my freaking setup? And I'm getting really annoyed. I'm just going to jump in a trade here. Having that patience and that discipline to wait for your setup, like this is so much a mind game that I think, people say it's 80-20, 90-10, whatever. I don't know. I think when it's got levels to it, when you get to a certain level and you're like, okay, I kind of understand how to trade, then you realize everything is mindset, everything is mental. So handling losses is absolutely critical, especially if you're in a unprofitable stage right now, or maybe you've had a string of losses and you just like, I don't even know how to get back up. Go back and rewatch, because I shared some things that I don't think are much talked about online. Some things I've done, some things I've, utilized to help me. And one of the biggest things I can just share with you before I let you go is that if you're able to just kind of like zoom out and say, okay, maybe I'm right now not where I want to be at all. I don't like this. I hate this. That's okay. Use that and say, where do I want to be? What is like the ideal scene here? I see myself like you guys have even seen some of my older videos, before I was even profitable. I was traveling on cruise ships and like, I'm traveling from the road and I was, trading from the road. And I'm like, I had this sort of vision for myself and I was like kind of picturing like, how cool would it be? I'm walking I'm going to the gym and I'm looking down at my phone and I'm like, yeah, my trade's green and, like feeling good. I had this like vision that was a different picture than what I was experiencing. And I was like, I know I'm not there right now, not delusional, but I'd rather think about where I'm going than think about where I've been. Does that make sense? Like every loss you've taken, that's where you've been. Why not start looking to where you're going and say, I can feel that way right now. When you start to really just not care about how long it takes, don't care about what everybody else is making, maybe you're the only person that's not making anything or hardly making any money. None of that really matters, because if you think about it, we're all on an individual journey here. And if you can just be grateful for where you are, that you're still here, you're still going, you're still trying, and you're not giving up, you got to recognize there's an energy out here, call it like from the YouTube community energy or whatever that we're all watching. There's an energy out here that's supporting you and understands where you are. And they've been where you are. Like, believe me, I've been there, losing for like consecutively almost like, 8-9 months. There was a couple of months I made a little bit of profit, but I always felt like I was just going to give it back the next month anyway. And I did. So it really didn't feel like anything but losing overall. I knew there was people out there that were doing this, and I knew I was going to find my way. I didn't know when, but when I stopped caring so much about when, I said, let me just focus. Let me just, cut out everything in your life that's distracting you, that's actually making these losses hurt more, and just live from a place of like, I got this. I don't know how. I don't know when it's going to turn around, but I got this. And just watch what happens to your trading. All right, guys. Yes, someone want it so bad because your future already has it. Absolutely, BB7. Abso-freaking-lutely. Your future self has it. And I would say this, that if you kind of can accept like quantum physics and stuff like that, that you have to recognize that version of yourself actually exists. Might seem kind of weird, might seem kind of like woo-woo out there, but y'all look at some Albert Einstein stuff, look at some quantum physics stuff, and realize that there's stuff we don't understand. Like, we don't understand how the internet works. We don't understand how radio waves work. We don't understand how cell phone towers work. That they work, right? They work. So you don't have to understand, but you can accept that because you think it, there is another version of you that's already living from a place of like, man, I'm going to the top. I'm winning. I'm successful, going to the top. So, all right, guys, take care. Go back and rewatch the beginning if you missed any of this, because I gave a little bit of gold nuggets, and I'll see you in the next one.